So welcome everyone. Welcome Needham and Wellesley neighbors, and thank you so much for joining our Olin's first annual Connecting Communities event. Before we start, I do want everyone to just know that we are recording the event. If you're uncomfortable being recorded, you can of course turn off your camera and also change your name on Zoom so you remain anonymous for the event, but we would like to record the event. So with that, to get started, I'd like to first introduce myself. My name is Mark Somerville. I'm the Provost and Dean of Faculty, and I'm also a Professor of Electrical Engineering and Physics at Olin. I'm one of Olin's early faculty members, and I've been a Needham resident since 2003. We also have with us tonight President Barabino, some of our Olin colleagues. We have Representative Denise Garlick with us, and the first person I'd like to welcome and introduce is Needham resident and Massachusetts State Senator Becca Rausch. Now, as many of you know, Senator Rausch was elected to the Massachusetts legislature in 2018. She's the third woman, the second Democrat, and the first Jewish person who represents Norfolk, Bristol, and Middlesex district in the Senate. She has a deep commitment to intersectional justice, social justice, to fairness, and to equality for all. And in that capacity, her legislative priorities have included election reform, reproductive justice, infectious disease prevention, combating climate change, prohibiting discrimination, supporting families, and transparency in government. And in her first term, she successfully advanced standalone bills and amendments in each of these policy areas. Before she was elected to the Senate, she also served as an elected local government official and an award-winning secretariat-level attorney in both the Patrick and the Baker administrations. Senator Rausch lives in Needham with her spouse, their two young children, and their floppy golden doodle. So welcome, Senator Rausch.
Thank you so much for that very warm introduction. It's such a privilege and honor to be here with you tonight and to represent Needham and Wellesley in the state Senate. It is my distinct honor to join so many of you, our community members this evening, to welcome Dr. Barabino as Olin College's new president as of July, as consistent with all forms of COVID timekeeping. I am very proud to be a Needham resident for so many reasons, including our town's proven commitment to supporting and uplifting young people through education and academics. And our community's partnership with Olin College really reaffirms that commitment, especially during these trying times. Our educational institutions need bold and innovative leadership to continue supporting the growth and well-being of our students and our families. Dr. Barabino, I hope the first few months of your tenure as president have been enriching and rewarding, despite the current challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic. And I very much look forward to a partnership and collaboration with you going forward. On behalf of the entire Needham community, it is such an honor and privilege to have your leadership, scholarship, commitment to racial and gender equity, and partnership within the town of Needham and on the Olin College campus. Thank you so much for joining our community, and thank you to everyone here for joining us tonight. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, Senator Rausch. I'd also like to welcome a longtime Needham resident and a longtime friend of Olin's, Massachusetts State Representative Denise Garlick. Denise has spent her entire career dedicated to public service and advocating for the rights of others. She was elected to the House of Representatives in 2010, representing the 13th Norfolk District, and she currently serves as Vice Chair of the House and Joint Committees on Ways and Means. Before she served in state government, she also sought to effect change in the town as a member of Needham's Board of Selectmen, as Chair of the Needham Board of Health, and as a town meeting member. Denise chaired the Senior Center Exploratory Committee, which resulted in the building of the center at the Heights. Additionally, as a select person, Denise was instrumental in ensuring the restoration of the Great Hall in Needham Town Hall, which I must say I look forward to getting back to once this whole COVID thing is over. In 2006, she founded and chaired the Needham Coalition on Suicide Prevention, which continues its work today and serves as a model for communities across the US. Denise has also had a great impact on local and statewide tobacco legislation, and as chair of the Joint Committee on Mental Health and Substance Use Disorder, she spearheaded the opioid bill that focuses on prevention, pain management, strengthening the healthcare workforce, expanding the behavioral health system, and expanding access and care to treatment. Denise and her husband, Russell, are longtime Needham residents, and they are proud parents of 4 young adults. So welcome, Representative Denise Garlick.
Well, thank you. So Mark, I also thank you for that wonderful introduction. And I hope it was a good use of people's time as we all get to know each other more and continue to build our relationships with Olin College and many people that are participating in the program. I wanted to say that I have been a neighbor and live right down the street from Olin and was on the select board as we were beginning to make some of the decisions around Olin College. And I have seen the college grow in so many wonderful ways in the last 2 decades. And I really honor and respect the foundation of the college. I want to tell you, I met with Rick Miller as a state representative, introductory meeting scheduled for 20 minutes and left an hour and a half later, completely enthralled, not only with that extraordinary man and his love of the students and his love of learning, but his sense of building a new world for engineers and what they can bring to our society and in the many ways we want to educate them. I believe it is my opportunity to introduce to you President Barabino. And as Senator Rausch said, she is the second president of Olin College, and she is the unanimous selection by the Olin College Board of Trustees after what I know was a comprehensive, in fact, worldwide search for the college. She is a pioneering educator and an academic thought leader, and she is dedicated her to making positive social impact through biomedical engineering research and diversity and equity policy in STEM, which we all know is science, technology, engineering, and math. I wanted to say as we welcome President Barabino that I have witnessed firsthand the relationships that Olin is making in our community. There was a wonderful program with people of differing abilities related to the Charles River Rock. I know tonight we're going to talk about that relationship with older adults. And I want to say sincerely to President Barabino, and I'm sure I speak for the Senator as well, that for you, President, your concerns will also be our concerns. And we hope very much that our community will always be your community. So welcome, President Barabino.
Thank you so much. I want to thank all of you for joining us this evening, and a special thanks to Senator Rausch and Representative Garlick for being with us. I can't tell you how happy I am to be a new member of the Olin community, and by extension, the Needham and Wellesley communities. While I haven't had the opportunity to meet many of you in person, I know from Rick Miller and I know from others that I am joining welcoming and caring communities. My reception, even in this virtual world that we find ourselves in, has been both warm and welcoming. I feel strongly that institutions of higher education have a special responsibility to engage in and support the communities in which they reside. I'm so pleased that Olin has a history of close connections with Needham and its neighbor Wellesley through a number of activities, and here's just a few examples. We have a design nature course which brings fourth graders from Needham to campus, and they assess our students' designs. We also have associations with North Hill, and another example is that we've had our students offering computer science and design workshops to local students. It is critically important to me and to the Olin community that we continue and strengthen our connections. I think most of you know Olin's history by now. You know we were founded in 1997 to be a different kind of engineering college, one that emphasizes experimentation, teamwork, design, and entrepreneurship. You might not know, though, that in just 20 short years, Olin has become the #3 undergraduate engineering program in the country, according to US News and World Report. And you might not know that Olin is a very critical part of a unique collaboration with Babson and Wellesley. And we refer to this as the BOW collaboration. And it's designed to provide liberal arts, business, and engineering students with the tools to work across disciplines. Shortly, we're going to be bringing our students back for our new semester. And I want to assure this community, the Needham and Wellesley communities and our own community, that we're going to do everything within our power to make sure that the community is healthy and safe for our entire community and the surrounding community. That is our highest priority. Jeremy Goodman, who's our Vice President for Administrative Services and Innovation, will be speaking to you following my remarks to give you a sense of more details on how we're doing this. We had a very successful fall semester, and we're very optimistic that the same will hold true for this spring. So while this pandemic has necessitated some changes as we're working in a remote world, we've still been working very hard on thinking about and projecting and setting up initiatives for our future as we look to build a stronger and more resilient Olin. Beyond the pandemic, I'm sure you're all aware that this country is undergoing a reckoning around systemic racism and the physical, economic, and psychological toll that it takes on people of color. We must all do our part to address these issues, and at Olin, we're committed to making a difference. As a Black woman in engineering, I have lived experience regarding the challenges of underrepresentation in technical fields. I've devoted my whole career to trying to make the world a better place through engineering education and research, and to increasing the access and opportunities in the sciences engineering for those who have historically been left out. Also very important to us that we look at bringing opportunities for access in engineering education to underrepresented minorities and women. And I'm proud to say that at Olin, 50% of our students are identified as female. I'm also committed to Olin being a place that can serve as a model for inclusive transformative engineering education. So I think you know, Olin has had a remarkable first chapter, and we believe that we're in store for an even more remarkable second chapter in our future. I really look forward to the day when we can once again welcome you to our campus, our Olin neighbors, in person. Olin's truly fortunate to have you all as neighbors. And with that, I'll turn things over to Jeremy, who will give you more insights into how we've managed to bring students back in the fall and what we're doing in the spring. So thank you all very much. Jeremy, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And welcome to all of you. I'm happy to be speaking with you today. Yeah. So the first thing that came to mind is to really have you all know that the health and wellness of our students and of our employees and our responsibility to the larger community has been at the top of our minds since the pandemic began. It's been a long 10 months for all of us now, but we've tried to make Olin the safest place we can, while also trying to overcome the big challenges that COVID-19 has posed for a place like Olin, where being in the same physical place and touching the same physical objects has really been integral to what we do every day, both educationally and in the way we try to administer the school as well. So this year, we've really been focused on safer ways to work and safer ways to learn. What that's really meant is that it's been a big reduction in the number of people who are on the Olin campus every day. Yeah. So in the fall, we only had about 110 students on the campus. That's about a third of the usual student population that would be here in the fall. Yeah. So to create a safer environment, we transitioned much of our learning to be remote, and we also we minimized the number of employees who needed to be on the Olin campus on a daily basis too, really to those who needed to be physically present in order to accomplish their job, which means that the vast majority of our employees have been fully remote. We've got another group who have been here occasionally, people like me who don't need to be here every day but come in sometimes. And then we've got a much smaller group who are here every day, and we thank them so much for their hard work in keeping the campus running and open and available to the students. And we've been practicing the same things that I'm sure all of you have been. We've been keeping our physical distance from each other. We've been wearing masks here. But really, one of the things that's made Olin successful this year is we put in place a frequent testing program for those who are on campus. So everyone who's here pretty much every day, students or employee, if that's the case, they've been testing twice a week since the last week of August. For those who might be here a little less often, that would be an employee who maybe comes in every other week, they'll test when they come in. But really, we've been focused on what we call hardening the bubble this past semester. The idea being the students who are on campus, they stay on campus unless they have a legitimate need to go off. The same reasons we might be going out right now to go to the grocery store, to pick up some takeout, but really otherwise they've been staying on campus. That also means that 2/3 of our students who were studying remotely in the fall, they were really away from campus. They were not able to come here at all. We created a hard and bright line to really minimize the risk of COVID coming onto the Olin campus as much as we could. That free testing program really has been the key. Yeah. As a result of that precaution and really having strong compliance among our whole community, we did 4,700 tests last fall and only 4 came back positive. And of those 4, only 1 was a student. So what that means is we saw no instances of community spread. And to put that in other terms, it means that at Olin, cases didn't turn into clusters. I think clusters have been a word we've all heard a lot when hearing about higher education lately, clusters of COVID. That hasn't happened here. So as a result, we're continuing the same programs and the same precautions into the spring semester. And based on that, we're expecting to welcome back about 160 students next week. So that's going to be more like half the number of people who are normally on campus. Yeah, but I hope we're going to continue to be successful, and we have every reason to believe that the high compliance and real community spirit that led to our success in the fall will continue into the spring. So with all that said, I'd like to turn over the screen to longtime Needham resident and Olin professor of anthropology, Caitrin Lynch.
Hi, thank you very much, Jeremy. So thanks, it's nice to see all these people here, including my parents who are hiding. And so I'm here to talk for a few minutes and introduce some students to talk about a class that I teach called Engineering for Humanity. I've taught this, I think we're going into the 7th or 8th time we're teaching it right now. It is a class for students at Olin, Wellesley, and Babson that integrates anthropology and design. I'm an anthropologist, as Jeremy said, and I specialize in, among other things, aging is a topic that I've done a lot of research in. And I, in fact, have turned Needham into my research lab. I wrote a book about Vita Needle Company in Needham. And I also made a film about a man named Julius Barthoff, who was a man who was 100 when I made the film about him, a Needham resident. So I love living in Needham and studying Needham and teaching in Needham. So in this class, it's an integration of engineering and engineering design and anthropology. I teach it with Ella Ben-Ur, who's here in this room. She's a mechanical engineer and a designer. This year we'll be teaching the course remotely entirely, where all the students, the professors, the teaching assistants, and the senior citizens we work with will all be in their own homes, or a few of the students will be on campus. And we're also teaching it with Hans Batra, who is here. Also, he is a Needham High School teacher who teaches computing, math, and robotics, and he's joining us to see how we teach this course at Olin and to help out. So in this class, we partner the students with older adults or senior citizens from the community. This is a partnership with the Natick Council on Aging, although we always recruit community partners in Needham, and we have offered it through the Needham and Wellesley Councils on Aging in the past. This year we have several Needham residents. We also work with North Hill. We have a field trip to North Hill usually. We'll figure out how to do that this year. We work with the Needham Community Council, and it's just a big community effort. So I'll tell you a tiny bit about the class. What happens in the class is the students, it's half anthropology and half engineering. One of the things we talk about a lot at Olin is that engineering starts and ends with people. You can't do engineering without the people, understanding the people who you are designing for and ideally with. And we talk about user-centered design at Olin. In this class, we go deep on these ideas of designing with and for people, and we partner the students with a particular A team of students will work with a particular senior citizen, go through several phases of the course. Early on, they're getting to just know this person and who the person is they're working with, what matters most to them. We use a method, a design, a way of thinking about design that our colleague Ella has created called the Innovator's Compass. And the first phase is a deep dive into understanding a person and their values. And then we go through a whole phase of design. What I'm going to show you right now is a few videos from the class where you can see a team, and then the team is actually here. There are 3 students here who are going to be here to tell you about their project. They worked with a woman from Natick named Linda, and you'll see several phases of their project. Early on, they were exploring different project ideas. Then once they focused in on a project, they then explored different ways to solve that particular problem they were working on. And then they fully designed, developed, and handed off something to this woman. So I'm going to show you, if I can get the technology correct, which ideally I will show you a video. Okay. Mark Somerville, can you see that? Yes, okay, thank you. All right, Mark, do a thumbs up if you can hear it too. Once they'd come up with some possible project areas, they then did what for Ella and I actually both, I think, is our favorite time, where they did a lot of experimenting, where we said, just go right now. We have a corner full of supplies, including like old egg cartons and just Velcro strips bandages and all sorts of things. And we said, go take a bunch of things off the shelf, make some quick experiments is the word we use, and go to the place where somebody would be using, your community partner would be using this, and have your community partner try it out and see what you can learn. And
this oxygen tubing gets tangled and kinked in the home, and so we have a retractable tubing idea. And then there's a self-coiling tubing idea, so it's a video of her walking with a coil that we made. Hadley's showing a sketch model where it would have an elastic in the coil. And then Linda is walking around with the coil and testing if it was in the way, and she says, it doesn't retract itself. So, and then it falls down in a funny way, and she laughs. And now we watch it get closed in a door, and so we have to think about, well, what happens with doors and other obstacles?
Get a sense for what sort of functions we might be missing out on. We want to explore different backpacks, shoulder bags, all sorts of things. What does she like about them? What does she not like about them? Putting her tank in each of these and seeing what we want out of this. And we did place cardboard in the bottom of the bag that she had previously to get a sense of how it would stabilize it. And it stabilized it pretty well. We have to figure out exactly the right size for the bottom, but that's a thing.
There was a great example from Team Linda. They got feedback during the presentation and then afterwards, where they talked about specific things about how the top of the bag lifts off and how to make it more stiff and how the strap should feel on Linda's back. So they have a lot of specific ideas now that they want to try to address, so then they can leave it with Linda and not worry that the oxygen canister will fall out of the bag. After this, they'll be refining the prototype, sending a pilot out to be in context with the person they've designed this for, and then later they will perfect and finalize whatever they're making.
This is the new bag, which is also right here, and you will be able to see at our table.
We looked at all the functions, interactions that she has with them, and the character of those bags. We took 10 just regular old backpacks once we started focusing on the backpack, and we were like, what do you like about these? What do you hate about them?
This doesn't stand up too steady. In fact, I fractured a toe once because it fell over on me. And they fixed that. They put an extra pocket on it. Yeah, and this is smaller when I'm trying to get by in a crowd. And they just did a wonderful job. And they hand embroidered these for me. And they make it bright, and they also do a safety thing to let people know this is oxygen here and don't light your cigarette near it, you know?
Okay, There's so much going on in that video, and thank you to Adam Coulter, who works at Olin, who sliced those together really nicely today. We have a website. I'll put the link in later, or maybe Ella, you could do that if you don't mind. We are really lucky that Olin helped us to create a really beautiful website that includes the entire curriculum, including videos from the class, all the assignments. You are all welcome to plunder that website. That's what it's for. So the videos came from there. There a couple things to point out. The students really got to know Linda and figured out that creating a better backpack for her would be perfect. She alluded to this a little bit. Linda loves dancing and socializing, and she wanted a backpack that she could bring with her. It wouldn't get in people's way. It could be, she also likes black and stylish and everything. And the students really figured out what to make and how. But now I will introduce the students and they can tell you a little bit about their work. So the first of the students who will speak is, we have 3 students. Their names are Alex Hindelang, Hadley Nunes, and Emma Friedman. They are here from all over the world, actually. New Zealand and Massachusetts and Florida. And Alex will go first. So Alex, it's all yours.
Hi there, everybody. I'm Alex. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm here to talk a little bit about the experience with Linda. It was really just amazing. I mean, we're here to talk about community, and I think we talk a lot about the idea of the Olin bubble and how Olin forms a community within itself and how it has a sort of particular culture. But what was really great about Engineering for Humanity is that it said that you can form communities with people outside and that you can make a better world with people anywhere if you give them the time and the energy. And that, you know, if you're working and designing with people, you can have a relationship that's not extractive, that's not, you know, oh, okay, I'm designing for you, but I'm here to ask you a couple of questions and then ditch you. You really spend time building a relationship and just caring about a person and making something that represents that, which was fabulous.
That's great. Thank you, Alex. And Hadley, it's all yours. You're muted.
So this class really expanded my understanding of what engineering can be and what we can achieve with it. Because I've sewn for a while, but I never, you know, really been able to put the sort of structural thinking of sewing and that fabrication skill into engineering until this project. But more than that, it was really the joy of designing as a group of 3 and all the, like, or 4 really. Yeah, designing as all 4 of us and getting through all these, doing all these iterations and these free experiments and then narrowing in on what we thought, you know, what we decided after, you know, really looking all over the place and learning how to look in new ways would be the most beneficial and impactful. It was really wonderful.
Thank you, Hadley. And Emma?
I'd like to go off of what Hadley said, looking in new ways. And I've moved on from Olin, but the class Engineering for Humanity and the design curriculum has really stuck with me. Because beyond, like, working with community partners like Linda is so important, and the project that we did was really rewarding. But beyond that, I think the design thinking that we've been able to experience in this class can be applied to all the larger issues that we have in society and that older generations don't have to deal with as much as we're going to, and the kids younger than us or students younger than us. What can we do about these problems that hasn't been thought of before? And that is what this class is about and what a lot of Olin education is about.
All right, thank you. Thanks very much. I think that's all we want to talk about. I'll just say one final thing, because it's one of my favorite aspects of this team, which is that I think Emma taught Alex how to embroider, and Alex embroidered the oxygen on there. It's such a nice, perfect touch. And it may be like, oh, just sweet, but it's not only is it just sweet, it's perfect. It was the perfect design, as Linda even referred to when she talked. So Mark, it's all yours. I'm going to throw in the chat from our really beautiful website. I didn't make it, so I can say that. There's a great page all about Team Linda and their entire journey. So I just threw that in the chat. Mark, it's your turn.
Good. Well, I hope you all join me in thanking Em and Hadley and Alex, and of course, Caitrin and also Ella. So, you know, clapping doesn't really work on Zoom, but we can all pretend to clap. Yeah, I always find it so, these stories of students interacting with and making a difference for people outside of the Olin bubble are really inspiring to me, and it's just great to see this work being done. This is sort of the end of the sort of structured part of the program. And at this point, we're going to open up the floor for questions about whatever you might have questions about, whether you'd like to, you know, ask Alex for some tips on how to do embroidery, or Caitrin or Ella about the course, or Jeremy about some of the steps that we've taken from a COVID perspective, or, you know, Denise is here, and all kinds of people you'd ask questions to. So the floor is now open for questions, and we'll have someone moderating the chat. We're also going to open a survey as well to find out what things might be helpful to you with regard to programmatic stuff in the future. So I see Bill Dermody has his hand raised. So Bill, do you want to take the floor and ask your question?
Sure, thanks so much. Not really a question, just want to say thank you for all and what they all they do and what they continue to do. We actually met Gilda at an Exchange Club meeting. I'm a member of the Needham Exchange Club, and I know Caitrin has come and presented to us about her program. So we really appreciate all you do, and we hope to keep the partnership moving forward on Zoom and with events like this, and with people like you coming to our Exchange Club meetings. And hopefully when we all get vaccinated, we can get back together on the campus.
Thanks so much, Bill. And you will notice there is a poll now open. So if you can take a moment to complete that poll, just telling us a little bit about the ways that you might like to be engaged with Olin in the future. And if you do have questions, please feel free to either speak up or raise your hand.
I'm standing by watching the chat. So if you have any.
And I will warn you that I am still a faculty member, and if you don't ask questions, I will ask you questions. And you might have thought I was kidding, but I'm going to do that now. So one of the things that we're really interested in is understanding perspectives around both engineering education and education more broadly. As you probably know, one of the reasons Olin was founded was to address the need for change in engineering education. So I'm curious to know what those of you who are not part of the Olin community think are the real problems that we ought to be thinking about from an education perspective today, or from an engineering education perspective today. So there's your question that you can cogitate on, and if you've got a thought about that, we'd love to hear that thought as well.
Well, hold that thought, Mark, because I do
Okay.
have a question. Do you have any programs with Needham High School that a high school student could get involved with?
So I'm not aware of programs at this particular moment that a high school student can get involved with. As you know, COVID has placed some constraints on what is possible to do. I might toss that to Hans Batra, who I believe is on the call. I know there has been some engagement between Alan Downey and Needham High in the past, but I don't think we're doing anything at this particular moment.
Hi everyone. I can say in the past, we've had some programs with an Olin professor or adjunct, Alex Morrow, who recently passed away, and he put on a course which Olin Needham students could take part in. And we have had Olin students come and help out with the robotics club, but it's been hard to build something sustaining. So there have been these events that have happened from time to time. There was another time with Professor Lee had a program, race car program, where some Needham students went and took a course with that Olin students put on as well, but those have sort of come and gone, but nothing that's been sustained for a long time. So those are the things that I'm aware of.
Thanks so much, Hans.
So I see someone, Nora, with a raised hand, but hold on one second because there's just a couple things in the chat. So I was deeply impressed at the partnership of Olin and the Charles River Center and hope that the future will hold more positive partnerships. Gilda, maybe that's something that you might want to weigh in on regarding partnerships between Olin and the community in which we're sitting and other communities.
Well, I can say strongly that we're looking to continue partnerships that already exist, build on them and strengthen them. And we're also looking for new partnerships. The challenges that we're all facing as a society and within our communities are only getting harder. So the best way that we can solve them is to do them together. So any ideas that people have, please shoot them to us. You can contact me directly even. We really are looking for building partnerships. And in terms of thinking strategically about the future, partnerships is one of the things that Olin feels is critical to the future. So it's a big area for us and we welcome ideas.
I see Nora Lynch's hand is raised, and there's also a note in the chat from Lisa Myra. So we will take Nora Lynch first and then Lisa's question after that. So Nora, floor is yours.
Hi, thank you. I'm actually Caitrin's sister, and I am an engineer myself. And one of the programs that I had when I went to Northeastern was the co-op program, which I found invaluable. And I was curious if you guys have ever considered doing co-op programs, or if you have partnerships with other organizations that are local or not local. I ended up going to Ireland on one of mine, where the students could have opportunities to take what they're learning in the classroom and actually apply it in the real world.
I think maybe I'll take a crack at that. So Nora, that's a great observation. We've certainly looked at the co-op program that Northeastern has and that other schools have, and are really actively investigating different ways that we can get students involved in doing things out in the world that actually create value while at the same time having really transformative learning experiences. So it is a topic of hot interest right now within the Olin community. We do not have a co-op program right now, but it certainly is the case that lots and lots of students end up creating their own co-op program as they'll take a leave of absence and go do interesting work during that leave of absence. I'll maybe take Lisa's question now. Lisa, I don't know if you want to say any more about that question, or I can just take it from the chat. So the question in the chat is, are we involved with the school committee in any way in terms of reframing the ways that we look at education? And I think the answer to that is at the individual level, Olin has been involved with NEF in a variety of ways. I've certainly given talks at NEF. I know that both Rob Martello and Caitrin, who's on the call right now, were involved in putting together an NEF grant on interdisciplinary education. And I know other faculty members have been involved with NEF as well. I'm not aware of a sort of institution level collaboration with NEF. So I think that's kind of the shape of that answer. I see a question. I see Nora Evans has a hand raised.
Yeah, so as a prospective student, this is just super impressive to me. I love that Olin is getting together with the community, and I know that Mr. Somerville asked a sort of similar question, but I wanted to point it towards as people that, as students in STEM communities, how can we increase diversity from sort of the inside out rather than from the top down?
That is a fabulous question, Nora, and it's one that we're very interested in indeed. I will pretend that I can provide an answer with that.
I was going to say, are you answering that, Mark? What are you doing?
Sorry?
Are you answering? What are you doing?
How are you supposed to, Gilda, you can answer. Like, yeah, I've got all night, right?
So Nora, can you restate your question?
I was just wondering, not necessarily being in the Olin community, but how can community members in general help to raise diversity and equity in the communities around us in terms of STEM?
Great. So, I think one of the things that we could do is just come together and have conversations, because a lot of times the conversations aren't even being had to even understand where the issues are. So that's one thing, like come together and have the conversations, but also like making connections and knowing who knows who. So talking more in the community, we might expand where we even look to find people from different backgrounds and so on. What gets missed a lot is the connectivity, like making connections. And so that is one way the community could actually be involved. So at Olin, I think one thing that's really important for us is to expand our community. So who are we talking to? Where are we going to have the conversations, and to create relationships and build relationships that then lead to partnerships. And the last thing I'll say is just doing things together actually makes a difference, because there's nothing as good as learning one another and bringing people together is to actually do something together, to have a shared interest and a shared goal and actually work on it together. So that's just one way that we could be thinking about it. I know your name now. I'll be looking for you for additional interactions.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much. I know that was sort of a difficult, not really an answerable question.
Well, now you know why Gilda's the president.
So our next question is from Claire, and it's, what is the best way for the newly formed Wellesley robotics team, high school level, to approach Olin post-pandemic? We also strive for diverse teams and a culture of equity and access, and would love to partner with Olin. So Mark, maybe that's a question for you.
Yeah, so I think probably the best short answer to that is maybe shoot me an email when we get to that point of post-pandemic, and we can try to get you connected to the right folks at Olin. That's probably the easiest way in. So
perfect.
My email is on the Olin website. I'm pretty easy to find.
We have a question from Betsy Powell. How much do you use the new Weissman Foundry? Do you engage Wellesley College women and Babson men in building out a project?
So the Babson, the Weissman Foundry, which is on the Babson campus, has been a fabulous addition to the BOW collaboration. If you haven't been in the space, I really encourage you to visit that space on the Babson campus once you're able to visit the Babson campus again. It's a space that was designed with a lot of input from both faculty at Olin and also faculty and students from Olin and from Wellesley College. And it's a space that has enabled us to do really great sort of interdisciplinary courses that bridge across the three campuses, as well as interdisciplinary co-curricular kinds of activities. So for example, the Babson Foundry or the Weissman Foundry is the students who kind of are in charge of running programs and facilitating learning in the Foundry are called Scouts, and they are drawn from all three campuses. So there are Scouts from Wellesley, Scouts from Babson, and also Scouts from Olin. So it's very much a facility that we really look forward to getting back into once COVID is over. And it's been a great blessing for that to be built on the Babson campus.
Mark, may I add something on that?
Please do.
I taught a class last fall 2019. I teach a class called Dirt to Shirt, where the students we're studying the global apparel industry, and I taught it at the Foundry. It was so fantastic. We had like 10 sewing machines there, and the students were doing all their projects in the Foundry. It was wonderful. And I just want to add that Alex Hindelang, who spoke earlier, was what was called a Foundry Fellow. So Alex, can you say just a quick thing about being a Foundry Fellow as an Olin student, what that involved?
Hi, yeah. So the Foundry, and I was actually starting to write something for Nora, because there are a number of ways that Olin and the kind of surrounding communities fund and support different initiatives that allow us to kind of create communities and support things that aren't necessarily the traditional STEM idea. But for that, being a Foundry Fellow was basically being given the space at the Weissman Foundry to do certain projects, and also being given funding and tools to be able to do those. So we were the zine club. Zines are DIY books. And so we made a bunch of publications, a lot of which had to deal with our experiences in different intersecting identities, our senses of justice. And there are other ones which were more entrepreneurial. There have been a lot of different initiatives that are funded by the Foundry Fellowship. And that's one way that we get involved with the rest of the BOW community, but also that allows us to communicate with people even outside of that. Yeah, and I'd be happy to talk about that. I've also been an employee at the Foundry, but you can always email me if you have more specific questions that wouldn't go here. Thank you.
Mark, I just want to add a quick comment about
Please
the BAPS and Olin Wellesley partnership. So we do things where the presidents get together and talk about how to strengthen the partnership. The provosts get together, students and faculty are working together. And so one of the things that we're thinking about now is like, how do we come up with new initiatives to do together that we bring in the strengths of business, entrepreneurship, engineering, and liberal arts for our communities. A particular one that we're thinking about now is like, how do we as a group, as a partnership, look at issues like racial justice? And then how do we build on things that we already have going on, like the Foundry? So the idea that we have this kind of unique partnership, just wanted to point out that we're really looking at how to do even more within that structure.
So I see one more question. I see a lot of love for Olin in the chat, so thank you very much, everybody, for that. But I do see a question that that sort of speaks to, you know, everything that is Olin, and it's about interdisciplinary programs and how does that work and why is it valuable? What are some examples? So Mark, maybe you want to start with that one.
Well, so I think we got a bunch of people on the call that can give some answers to that. I think one of the things that is real, we deeply value interdisciplinary learning as a sort of core part of what we do at Olin. I'll ask, Caitrin is on the call, and Caitrin has been deeply involved in interdisciplinary stuff. I know that Joanne Pratt is here somewhere, as is Lawrence Neely, and both of them have done a bunch of interdisciplinary stuff. So rather than my prattling on as provost, I'll pass it to Caitrin and ask Caitrin to tell us how does interdisciplinary work and why is it valuable, and maybe you can pass it off to some other folks.
Okay, great. Put me on the spot. It happens to be my favorite topic, so that's okay. The thing of when we realized that to teach engineering well, I said before about engineering starts and ends with people. You need to understand people. And so that's part of where the interdisciplinary push comes from, is like, let's take the technical with this social context and make sure that one's not just the help me to the other, but they're fully connected. The other thing is to realize that problems are not just, we have these disciplinary silos, right? Like math departments and economics departments, but problems don't sit within those small siloed areas. And so we need to approach problems and opportunities and just ways of understanding the world from these wider perspectives. So we do that throughout the Olin curriculum. And I think like one of the things that Carol, who wrote the question, said, how does this work? I think at Olin, we go all over the world and talk about how we do things at Olin. And one of the things that's really striking at Olin, and I hear faculty members all over the world say, we can't do that. We can't do that kind of thing, because we at Olin, we don't have departments, and we're very flexible about like what can count for who gets what kind of teaching credit for things. And we never created those boundaries, so we don't have to break them down, which helps a lot. I see various chat comments about this. I want to pass this on to Ella, because Ella is somebody who has mechanical engineering degrees, and you know, she and I are like connected at the hip in terms of thinking about interdisciplinarity. Do you have anything to add, Ella? Putting you on the spot.
Maybe a little echo and a little add, but I mean, now a social entrepreneur myself, I really want to echo just the way things are blended. Like every day, I know of my work and life, I'm blending together. Sure, that engineering background I got with so many new things I'm having to learn and do, and some of that is interdisciplinary stuff I've learned, So all the different skills they learn and how they're coming together, but the ability to just get out of your silo, even if you don't learn that particular other discipline while you're at Olin, but not to be, to be able to see things from more and pick up more and more lenses as you go along and not be stuck on them. And as a professor too, I think it's really, really easy for us to be very siloed and teach in a way that may not be as, let's say, applicable when you get out there, because we can get so kind of, just like esoteric and pointed into, like, my design teaching could be, I think, a lot more narrow and theoretical if I wasn't constantly in dialogue with someone who comes from a very different world. And that pushes me as a professor to be more relevant and be just more creative in how I even teach my own subject than if I was teaching it alone. So I think that interdisciplinarity is as powerful as for students as it is for professors who work that way.
Maybe if I could just tie this back to the observation about the Weissman Foundry at Babson. One of the wonderful things for both faculty and students at the three institutions has been the extent to which that has created the opportunity for interdisciplinary learning experiences, both for students and for faculty across the three campuses. So we are certainly converts and evangelists for interdisciplinarity at Olin. So I think at this point, we're maybe going to call it a wrap for tonight. So as Gilda said earlier, we so look forward to the day when we're able to actually welcome you on the Olin campus and treat you to some of the wonderful food in the Olin dining hall. And I know I'm actually serious when I say that. I'm not joking when I say the wonderful food in the Olin dining hall. If you have not eaten at the Olin dining hall, please come eat at the Olin dining hall when you get a chance. You will be impressed. We look forward to greeting you in person. And until then, thank you so much for spending this time with us in virtual community tonight. And thank you for being such wonderful neighbors to us at Olin, because we really appreciate being a part of the Needham community. So have a good evening.